In 1845, a 27-year-old man walked into the woods outside a small Massachusetts town, built a cabin with his own hands for $28.12, and decided to run an experiment on himself. The experiment was simple: strip life down to the bare essentials, find out what actually matters, and report back. That man was Henry David Thoreau. The report he filed was Walden, and this book, written over 170 years ago, contains the most dangerous idea you will encounter this year. Not dangerous in the way you might think, not violent, not radical. Dangerous because if you actually absorb what Thoreau is saying, you cannot go back to living the way you've been living. Your scrolling habits, your spending habits, your entire relationship with time itself, it all gets exposed. And here's what makes this moment perfect for this conversation. You might have seen the Ken Burns documentary that just aired on PBS in March of this year. 3 hours, Jeff Goldblum voicing Thoreau, George Clooney narrating, Meryl Streep. It blew up. And it wasn't just a history lesson. The reason it hit so hard is that the filmmakers explicitly framed Thoreau's ideas against where we are right now. The AI age, the attention economy, the burnout epidemic. So today, this is not a dry book summary. This is the 5 most powerful ideas from Walden and why each one is more relevant in 2026 than it was in 1854. And by the end, you'll have Thoreau's 1-sentence framework for deciding whether anything in your life is actually worth your time. Let's get into it. Idea number 1, the true cost of everything you own. Here's a line from the economy chapter that, once you understand it, will change how you look at every purchase you make for the rest of your life. Thoreau says the cost of a thing is the amount of life which is required to be exchanged for it. Read that again in your head. The cost of a thing is not the price tag. It is the amount of your life you had to trade to earn the money to buy it. Thoreau does the math in the book. He calculates that an average house in his era cost about $800, and at a laborer's wage of roughly $1 a day, that meant a person would spend 10 to 15 years of their life, more than half, just to earn the right to have a roof. Before the first meal, before a single day of actual living. Now translate that to 2026. The median home price in the United States is hovering around $400,000. The median household income is around $80,000. That's 5 years of gross income, before taxes, before food, before everything. In reality, with a 30-year mortgage at current rates, you are trading something closer to 20 to 25 years of labor for that house. You are not buying a home. You are buying a decades-long obligation with your life as the currency. And it's not just houses. Think about the flagship smartphone you upgraded to last year. $1,000. If your effective hourly wage after taxes is $30, that phone cost you 33 hours of your life. Was it worth 33 hours? Maybe. But did you even ask the question before you bought it? Thoreau's point isn't that you shouldn't own things. His point is that most people never run this calculation. They look at the price tag, not the life tag. This idea alone, if you actually applied it, would change 80% of your financial decisions overnight. Idea number 2, quiet desperation is the default setting. There's a line in Walden, so famous it's practically a cliche, but most people who quote it have never actually sat with what it means. Thoreau writes that the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation, and what is called resignation is confirmed desperation. Now, when you first hear that, you might think, okay, that's a bit dramatic, but here's the thing. Thoreau isn't describing poverty. He isn't talking about people in crisis. He is talking about people who, from the outside, look like they're doing fine. People with jobs, people with homes, people who are, by every conventional metric, succeeding. And he is saying that Most of them are quietly miserable. In 2026, we have data that backs this up in ways Thoreau could not have imagined. The Surgeon General's Advisory on Loneliness, the World Health Organization classifying burnout as an occupational phenomenon, studies showing that the average person checks their phone 96 times a day. Gen Z over 150, and here's the statistic that should stop everyone in their tracks. A majority of people in workplace surveys say they feel disengaged from their jobs, not just bored, disengaged, going through the motions. That's quiet desperation with a salary and a benefits package. And notice Thoreau's second line. What is called resignation is confirmed desperation. In other words, the moment you tell yourself, this is just how life is, that's not acceptance, that's giving up. Thoreau is saying the biggest danger is not failure. The biggest danger is successfully building a life you never actually wanted. Gen Z seems to be getting this in a way that previous generations didn't. The quiet life movement, the dumb phone trend, kids deliberately downgrading their smartphones to flip phones or switching to grayscale mode to break the dopamine loop. The no-buy challenges. These aren't fringe trends anymore. They're a generation saying, we see the quiet desperation, and we refuse to sign up for it. That instinct, that's pure Thoreau. Idea number 3, simplify, and then simplify again. There's a passage in the Where I Lived and What I Lived For chapter that reads like Thoreau reached forward through time and looked at your notification center. He writes, our life is frittered away by detail. Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. Let your affairs be as 2 or 3 and not 100 or 1,000. Instead of 1,000,000, count half a dozen and keep your accounts on your thumbnail. He then uses this remarkable image. He says, life is like navigating a chopping sea, clouds and storms and quicksands and 1,001 items to be allowed for, and a man has to live by dead reckoning, and he must be a great calculator indeed who succeeds. Then he repeats it, simplify, simplify. Now here's where this gets uncomfortably relevant. Thoreau was complaining about the telegraph and the railroad. The cutting-edge distraction technology of 1845 was a machine that could send messages across a wire. That was the notification system he found overwhelming. In 2026, the average knowledge worker uses 11 different software tools per day. We receive somewhere between 80 and 120 emails. We're pinged on Slack and Teams and WhatsApp and Discord. We manage subscriptions, passwords, recurring deliveries, streaming services, cloud storage platforms, AI assistants, the administrative overhead of simply existing in modern life would have been incomprehensible to someone even 30 years ago, let alone in Thoreau's time. And here's his core insight, stated in modern terms. Complexity is not a sign of a rich life. Complexity is the tax you pay for never deciding what actually matters. When Thoreau says simplify, he is not telling you to become a monk. He's telling you to make the hard decisions you've been avoiding. Which 3 priorities actually matter this year? What are you doing every week that contributes to none of them? What would happen if you stopped? The digital minimalism movement, Cal Newport's framework, the structured dopamine detox protocols, phone-free mornings, app deletion experiments, all of it is a modern expression of this exact idea. People are discovering in 2026 what Thoreau proved in 1845. When you subtract the noise, the signal becomes unmistakable. Idea number 4, you are not where you are. This might be the most underrated idea in Walden. It appears near the end of the book, in the conclusion, and most people fly right past it. But it deserves a full stop. Thoreau writes, for the most part, we are not where we are, but in a false position. Through an infirmity of our natures, we suppose a case and put ourselves into it, and hence are in 2 cases at the same time, and it is doubly difficult to get out. Here's what that means in plain language. Most people are living in a hypothetical version of their life instead of their actual life. They've created a story about who they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to want, and what success is supposed to look like. And they're trying to navigate that imaginary life and their real life simultaneously, which makes everything twice as hard. This is the guy who spent $60 on a luxury watch because he's supposed to be the kind of person who wears that brand. This is the woman who took the corporate law job because everyone told her she'd be crazy to turn it down, even though she wanted to teach. This is anyone who has ever said, I should want this, instead of I want this. In 2026, this false position problem is amplified to an almost absurd degree. Social media gives you a real-time feed of other people's supposed positions. Instagram shows you the lifestyle you're supposed to want. LinkedIn shows you the career trajectory you're supposed to follow. TikTok shows you the body, the apartment, the aesthetic you're supposed to have. Thoreau's answer is radical in its simplicity. Say what you have to say, not what you ought. Any truth is better than make-believe. Stop pretending, stop performing. Figure out what you actually value, not what you've been told to value, and align your life with that. Everything else is noise. Idea number 5, the deliberate life. This is the heart of the entire book. If you take one thing from Walden, take this. Thoreau writes, I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not when I came to die discover that I had not lived. That last phrase, not when I came to die discover that I had not lived. That's not philosophy, that's a warning. And here's what people get wrong about this. Thoreau is not saying you need to move to the woods. He literally addresses this in the book. He left Walden Pond after 2 years. He says he left because he had other lives to live. The woods were not the point. Deliberateness was the point. To live deliberately means to make conscious choices instead of drifting into defaults. It means examining why you're doing what you're doing, rather than doing it because everyone else is. It means asking, is this your life, or is this someone else's idea of your life that you've accidentally adopted? And the reason this idea is hitting so hard right now, the reason the Ken Burns documentary resonated the way it did this spring, is because in 2026, the default path is more automated than ever. AI can draft your emails. Algorithms choose your entertainment. Recommendation engines pick your next purchase, your next song, your next video. You can sleepwalk through an entire day, and every decision will be made for you by a system designed to maximize engagement, not your well-being. Living deliberately in 2026 doesn't mean rejecting technology. It means choosing on purpose how you engage with it. It means the phone goes in the drawer during dinner. It means the first hour of the morning is yours, not your inbox's. It means you decide what a good life looks like before someone else's algorithm decides for you. Now, the framework promised at the start. Thoreau's one-sentence decision filter. Remember idea number 1? The cost of a thing is the amount of life which is required to be exchanged for it. That's not just about money. That sentence works for everything. Is this meeting worth 2 hours of your life? Is this argument worth 30 minutes of your peace? Is this subscription worth 5 hours of work every month? Is this grudge worth the mental real estate it's occupying? Run every commitment, every obligation, every habit through that filter. The amount of life required to be exchanged for it. If the answer doesn't justify the cost, cut it. That's Walden in one operating principle. That's the experiment Thoreau ran on himself at the pond, distilled into a decision tool you can use today, right now, in the next choice you make. And here are the final lines of the book, because Thoreau wrote them as a direct message to anyone who's ever felt stuck. He says, however mean your life is, meet it and live it. Do not shun it and call it hard names. It is not so bad as you are. It looks poorest when you are richest. The fault finder will find faults even in paradise. Love your life, poor as it is. And the very last line, Only that day dawns to which we are awake. There is more day to dawn. The sun is but a morning star. He's telling you it's not too late. He's telling you this is the beginning, not the end. He's telling you that the life you're looking for is not somewhere else. It's right here in the life you're already living, the moment you decide to actually be present for it. That's Walden, and if this commentary changed how you think about even one decision you make this week, share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Until the next one.